सामने बेटा? When we talk
Yes.
about the blood is the liquid tissue and it is a form of the connective tissue. When we talk about the uh, type of on the basis of the composition, it is also known as complex tissue. Why? Because it has a different type of cells in it, right? Talking about the blood, when we talk about the blood is having the composition like this. Blood is having 55% plasma and 45% cell. In some books, they write 44% cell and 1% platelets. Why they separate platelets from the cells? Because platelets are the fragment of cell. They are just covered by the membrane. That's why they look like a cell. They are not a cell. But in some books, they write 45% cells. That's why I have written here. But in different books, you may find this like this. 55% plasma is composed of 90% water or 95% water. In your book, it is written 95%. In O-level books, they write 90%. So it is almost a lot of water inside it, which is a pale yellow colored liquid. This pale yellow colored liquid, along with the water, contains different substances dissolved in it, right? For example, glucose in the form of the solution, and different hormones, antibodies, and there are so many things which are present over there, right? Minerals, hydrogen carbonate ions, they are floating inside it. When we talk about the cells are of the basically two main types. One is known as white blood cell or leukocyte, other is known as red blood cell or erythrocyte. You can see here, these are the red blood cells which are shown here. And red blood cells, they are small, flexible, biconcave structures and they are round in shape. And looking at the WBCs, you can see here these are WBC or the white blood cells because they do not contain hemoglobin, they look white. These cells, they are basically of two types. They may be neutrophil, means phagocyte. They may be white blood cell, may be of two types. Either they are phagocytes, they eat the germ and engulf the germ. This is neutrophil and this is macrophage. Or they may be lymphocytes. They may be lymphocytes. Right? So when we talk about the phagocyte or lymphocyte, these are the types of the white blood cell. Here you can see they are showing us the cell, red blood cell. Red blood cell, their red color is visible because of the pigment containing iron, which is known as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, as you have done in the previous chapter, it is a quaternary structure of protein which contains 4 polypeptide chains, right? The function of the hemoglobin is to transport oxygen inside the body. When it flows inside the body, it is going to transport the oxygen throughout the body. So when we talk about the RBCs are the cells. So red blood cell is unusual in several ways. Red blood cell or erythrocyte are unusual in different ways. Number one, when we talk about these cells, first of all, you will see here that red blood cell is shaped like a biconcave disc. There's a dent in the center on both sides, which increases the surface area of the cell to carry more hemoglobin and to carry more oxygen in them. Then red blood cells are very small inside. They are so small. They are the diameter of the red blood cell is 7 micrometer, and this is also the diameter of a capillary. The smaller capillaries, they have the 7 micrometer of their diameter. So when they pass through the capillaries, lumen of the capillary, the outer layer of the outer membrane of the RBC and the capillary, they are adjacent to each other, they are touching each other. Why? Because the both have the same size. That is why RBC, as it is a highly flexible cell, it can easily pass through it, squeezing itself. So it passes through the capillaries, and when it passes through the capillaries, the distance for diffusion is reduced. You can see here the distance of diffusion is reduced because both layers are just touching each other. RBC and the capillary wall is touching each other. One more thing which is reducing the distance is the shape of the RBC wall and the capillary wall. Capillary wall is having the thickness of one cell, which is made up of squamous epithelial, and these cells are very flat cells, so they easily take oxygen inside the blood, inside the tissues, and from the tissues easily carbon dioxide is transported to the RBC. Red blood cells are very flexible. They are very flexible cells. As I already mentioned, that they are highly flexible cells. From this shape, they can squeeze themselves like this, and they can easily pass through even through a very smaller and narrower capillary. Red blood cells, they don't have a nucleus inside it. There is no nucleus inside. So if there is no nucleus inside, they are also providing a big room for the supplying of the oxygen and carrying more oxygen, because there is a large space inside over there which is empty. Red blood cells have no nucleus, no mitochondria, and no endoplasmic reticulum. Plus, they don't have any mitochondria, so mitochondria, they help in the aerobic respiration of the cell, But and mitochondria also absorb oxygen for the process of aerobic respiration. So if there is no mitochondria, there is no use of oxygen inside the cell, and they can easily carry the large amount of oxygen throughout the body. The lack of these organelles means that there are more room for hemoglobin and maximize the amount of oxygen. They maximize the amount of oxygen when they don't have any nucleus. So what are the characteristics of red blood cell? Number one, they are small. Number two, they are having the biconcave shape. Number three, they are highly flexible. Number four, they are having no nucleus, no mitochondria, no endoplasmic reticulum, no ER. White blood cells are also known as leukocyte. Leuko means white, cyto means cell. They are having a prominent nucleus inside them. White blood cells are of two basic types. These are the phagocytes. These both are phagocytes. Phagocytes, they contain the lobe nucleus like this, and also the granules inside the cytoplasm. This is neutrophil. Neutrophil. And this is the macrophage. It is having no granules in the cytoplasm. Wherever you find the word of fill, you should understand that the cytoplasm is having granules. So neutrophil is having the word PHILE, so we call it fill, and it is also having the granules in the cytoplasm. But when we talk about the monocyte or macrophage, what monocyte is? Monocyte is the largest type of blood cell. White blood cell, it is the largest size. So, yeah. And these cells, they are having a bean-shaped nucleus. This vein-shaped nucleus is almost filling the whole cell. When they are floating into the plasma or the blood, they are known as monocyte, but when they reach the tissue, they become macrophage. Phagocyte cells found in the tissues throughout the body. They act as antigen presenting cells as well. What antigen presenting cell is? Antigen presenting cell means when they are partially destroying the pathogen, they are going to keep the pieces of this pathogen on their surface. And these surface proteins, they are behaving like an antigen, right? I told you, antigen means the surface protein which help in the recognition of any cell. So when they are unable to completely destroy the pathogen, they keep certain pieces of this pathogen on their surface, and these they become antigen presenting cells or APCs. These antigens, they work as a signal, help signal, and they call the natural killer to kill them. So natural killer is going to kill the cell of the body. These are cell. So natural killer will come and destroy them and kill them. So these are the cells which are known as the phagocytes, neutrophil and macrophage. Macrophage is also a big eater, but its name is monocyte when it is floating into the blood. When it reaches into the tissue, it is known as macrophage. When we talk about the second type of white blood cell, this is the first type of white blood cell, which is the phagocytes. And phagocytes are having two types. Number one is neutrophil, number two is macrophage. Second type of the, here I will write A. The second type of WBC is known as lymphocyte. And lymphocyte, one type of lymphocyte is called the B lymphocyte, which is produced in bone marrow but getting mature in bone marrow. And the second type of the lymphocyte is called T lymphocyte, which is born and produced by the bone marrow but getting mature into the thymus gland. So, due to thymus gland, we call it T lymphocyte because it is getting mature in thymus gland, and due to bone marrow, this is getting mature in the bone marrow. That is why we call it B lymphocyte. So, how many type of white blood cells are there? There are two different type of white blood cells. One type of white blood cell is called the one type of white blood cell is called the phagocyte. Other type of white blood cell is called lymphocyte. Lymphocyte has two types. Number one is known as B lymphocyte, which is produced by the bone marrow and getting mature as well over there. And the second type of lymphocyte is T lymphocyte, which is obviously produced by bone marrow but getting mature into the thymus gland. When we talk about the phagocytes are of again two types. Number one is known as neutrophil. Neutrophil is the smaller as compared to macrophage, but very great and the largest in number in the blood. When we talk about the macrophage is the cell which is previously in the form of monocyte floating into the blood, but when it reaches into the tissue, it becomes macrophage. It is a big eater and it is the largest cell of the system. And who is largest in number? Largest in number is neutrophil. I have told you previously a mnemonic to keep their concentration and their ratio in the blood. What is their this mnemonic? Never let monkeys eat bananas. I told you. Never let monkeys eat bananas. Never. N is for neutrophil, L is for lymphocyte, M is for monocyte, a macrophage, E is for eosinophil, and B is for basophil. According to the number, neutrophil is the largest in number, after that lymphocyte, after that monocyte, then after that eosinophil, and then basophil. There are different type of cells floating inside the blood.